That's
We might over.
Open the meeting to the public. Anybody wishing to address the board at this time may do so. You can take it down, Brian. Thank you. Go ahead, Harry.
Okay, just a couple things before I get to the legislation. You saw the latest figures on sales tax, and it's not looking too good here. So, you know, I know that your budgetary process is a long way away, but I think whatever you put in your budget, I think you can expect possibly reaching that level or less. So the town is in a much better or much worse situation in the sense that they've got to do their budget very, very shortly. I just wanted to comment briefly on the airport situation. There was a lot, as you may remember, a lot of controversy relative to the Cape Air versus Colgan Air. And, you know, one of the reasons that I voted in favor of Colgan Air and US Air was the issue, and it had nothing to do with service, was the issue of money, which is a big deal. Most people don't realize that everybody that walks through there, be they American or Canadian, are worth $4.50 to Clinton County. And, you know, when you have an airplane that seats 9 people and you have an airplane that seats 34 people, you can obviously do the math. The key figure was whether or not we were going to be able to fill those planes. And I just wanted to give you one statistic, which I think is really sums it up. With Cape Air, we were averaging 468 people per month. With US Air, Colgan Air right now, we're averaging 1,413 people a month. So over 3 times the number. And if you do the math, that represents an awful lot of money. So we're still at about 80% Canadian, but it is, so in essence, if you want to break it down even further, about 4 people per flight for Cape Air versus 22 people per flight for Cape Air, or for Colgan Air. So, you know, I think we made the right choice. It wasn't an easy decision. A number of my friends called me and told me that they had flown Cape Air and that they had a very good experience and so on, but this was the future. And there is a potential expansion down there at the airport too, if we can get to the next threshold, which is of course the 100,000 mark, and we are projected to be close to that for the year coming up. We're also going to be dealing with parking. I don't know whether you saw that in the paper, but we are going to put a request for proposals down there. We have people parking there for months on end. As you may know, parking is free. And my favorite story is the one about the family reunion that told all their people to go park at the airport because it was free parking for a week, and they had a family reunion. Not people from our area, but people from the Plattsburgh area. So anyway, so we are going to be charging at some point, but we're going to work it out where it's a nominal fee, and I say nominal relative to Canadian prices, possibly $4 or $5 and so on. But we're gonna farm it out with the hopes of getting some kind of a parking garage down there. That's our goal, and I think that may happen within the next probably 2 years. George was at the Pfizer meeting. I don't know whether he reported on it, but the new concept is to parcel out you know, parts of it and sell it to, try to sell it to 3 or 4 different marketers and then sell the whole building, and that's the new concept for both Shazy and potentially Rouses Point. And I don't know whether, have you heard anything since that meeting, George?
Not a word.
So, you know, George and I we've got our own little spot there in the corner, and we just sit there. It's usually about half an hour, 45 minutes, and listening to Gary Douglas tell us that they're doing all they can, but it doesn't sound good. The last thing before I just get quickly to the firefighters thing, as you know, again, term limits are on the ballot this year for the county. It affects this area not at all, in the sense that we drew the straw, which meant that it'll be a 4-year term starting next year, but half of them drew the 2-year straw. That's all of the even numbers. So Sam Trombley, you probably read it in the paper, Sam of course is term limited and he would like to continue. I told Sam that he'd have to come out of Ellenburg with about 1,000 vote margin in order to pass that thing, from what I hear from people. But anyway, but we'll see what happens. But it's on the ballot. It affects the county government. But the bottom line is, at the end of this process, we will have a staggered term for our legislators. We'll have 5, and then 2 years later, we'll have 5 more instead of all 10 being replaced. But the question is whether they can serve and beyond the 12-year term. All right, what you have in front of you is my summary of the legislation for the firefighters. We've been at this now for 2 years, and the legislative intent is obvious. You know, getting people to volunteer and getting people to be retained in the fire department. And you don't have to go to too many of the fire department dinners to realize that a lot of people in the room have an awful lot of experience, and there are very few people in the room who don't have very much, meaning that it's an older crowd. I mean, let's face facts, and we have to try to do something in that area. The only thing the county can do is to deal with the property tax, and that would be also the villages and the towns, and of course the school board. And I've done the total. I called today and got all the tax rates, and for the village, town, county, and school for Rouses Point, it would be $32.72 a thousand. And so if we were able to convince, and I'm quite sure that we have all 10 votes tomorrow night for this, so the county will be on board. I don't want to speak for the town of Champlain, but I've gotten positive feedback from them and gave them a sample copy. You, of course, would not have to be concerned with passing this resolution unless you wanted to earlier, because you know it would only come into effect in your next budgetary year, which is June 1st. But if we were going to go to the school board and had the county, the village, and the town on board, all 3 of us on board, and said to the school board, look, you know, this is something we'd like to pass, because of that $32, as I'm sure you know, almost $20 of it is the school board piece of that. So in order to make it worth our while, we would have to do that. I did get an answer to a question that George asked me relative to people with 20 years experience. If they have left, they would be ineligible, and if they came back, they would have to go through the 5-year process again. So unfortunately, you know, as much as we would love to take care of the individuals who gave, you know, some of them, you've given out 30, 40-year pins. Was there a 50-year pin one time for somebody? Yeah, George is the one. What was red? Was he?
He's 60.
60, sorry. Okay, I knew they were up there. You know, but there isn't really anything you can do with that legislation, and I don't think they necessarily, at that age, want to come back and for 5 years just to qualify for a 10% tax reduction. But in any event, and it would be 5 years, and of course, dealing specifically with individuals who own property. It's not, you know, for individuals who rent. And but you know, if you're a young fireman, you're starting a family, you may aspire to have a home someday, and that would be something you could do. The part of the problem here is that there already is a $200 tax exemption, which I'm sure if you're a fireman you know about. And this doesn't add to that. It's one or the other. So for Rouses Point, the break-even point is somewhere in the neighborhood of a $60,000 home. If we get all the taxing jurisdictions on, then you would benefit. So you'd have to have a home that's at 60, and if it's outside the village, it's around 70,000. So you know, we are going to try and find about 40% of the counties in the state have this. If we can get them all together and push the state to allow the piggyback rule, which would be to get the 200 plus this, then I think we'd be doing something. And you know, it really isn't going to cost the state any money, because they're already giving the $200 exemption. The only time they get it taken away is if someone opts out of this plan. So even though Mr. Patterson has been quick to use his veto pen, this is one of those areas where maybe we could convince it. But so that's our next plan of attack in terms of beyond this year. I don't see this coming into fruition probably until sometime during the next year when we get all the entities involved. So in any event, I you know, a lot of when I signed up to be a county legislator, I should have the job is really county constituent services person. But every once in a while, you get a chance to be a legislator, and this was an opportunity. It came from a lot of former students of mine who just said, you know, Mr. M, if there's anything you can do, help us out, and I hope this will work. It's not the end result, it's not a huge amount of money, but it is something, and hopefully we can build on this after we get this through. But I have every expectation that tomorrow night this will pass, okay? I don't know if there's any
Harry,
questions? Yeah,
that $200 state exemption,
Yeah.
that's on income tax, you know,
yeah, I know.
not on
I know, but
property
you
tax.
can't, the problem
Yeah,
with it.
I understand.
Yeah, it is, and, you know, there is, we looked at the income tax piece of it, but you'd have to get the state of New York to grant that. And of course, in the resolution we passed, we wanted that raised to $1,000. We also wanted it to be piggybacked. And the legislation, with all due respect to Janet Dupree and Betty Little, they could never have gotten it passed. I said, you know, I told them, I said, get it passed. Well, this is what they had to do to get it passed. They had to leave this alone, and they had to leave the other piece alone, and just go with a 10% exemption. But I just think that the next step would be to allow the coupling of the two. Get your 200 on your income, and then get your 10% tax reduction. So I encourage you to take this up. We do have specific legislation for the local law that we put forth, and I'm gonna have it emailed to the Rouses Point, so you'll have that legislation. If you wanna use a similar wording.
We have to pass a local law, that's all we have to do.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, the wording, I'm talking about the wording for the local law. We already been down that road, so we'll email that to you, and you can have it. You'll have to go through the same process we do, which is to advertise, hold a public hearing, and then go from there. So, anybody have any questions on that or anything else, I'm more than happy to answer.
On behalf of myself, I want to thank you for what you've done here. And the shocker to me was Legislator Hines. When he came out, he said, ain't enough.
Yeah, I know.
We were at that meeting, and I left there very, very pleased that the legislators were.
It was great that you could come down, George, because I think we, you know, I don't know whether anybody's gonna show up tomorrow night. I think everybody knows it's probably going to be a 10-0 vote. But, you know, there may be, Eric Day may come, I don't know. But, you know, having people come down and speak to the issue, and you're the people on the line, that made a difference. And I was very pleased too that it went 10-0 and not, you know, 9-1 or 8-2 or whatever. So very, very pleased about that.
Anyway, thanks again.
Okay.
If there's no questions for Harry, anybody else? If not, you'll have a chance at the end of the meeting. You all have copies of the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any exemptions or deletions or additions? If not, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting, the regular minutes of the meeting of September 7th, 2010.
Second it.
Moved by trustee Jefferson, seconded by trustee Baker. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Bills. You'll all have copies of the bills. Becky, do we have any additions?
New York State sales tax for $1,611.02. And the New York Planning Federation bill, that is not gonna be $248, it's gonna be $107.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills as amended tonight.
Second that.
Moved by trustee Jefferson, seconded by trustee Roberts. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor vote by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Correspondence.
Yes, sorry. From Vila, Quebec, we have a letter regarding the Grand Tour. And it reads, it's to the Civic Center Manager, Mike O'Brien. Dear Monsieur, from August 8th to the 13th, cycling was in the spotlight between New York State and Quebec with the presentation of the 17th edition of the Grand Tour. Thanks to your cooperation, the charm of the Adirondacks, Champlain Valley, and Richelieu River, some 1,800 biking enthusiasts will not soon forget this historic edition, which featured an original tracing Samuel D. Champlain's journey through this region of North America in 1609. Your commitment and valuable cooperation greatly contributed to the unique aspect of this grand tour. On behalf of myself and the entire team, I would like to sincerely thank you for your support. Yours truly, Iseme Dufour, the Summer Events Route Coordinator for Vila, Quebec.
And on the bottom, she's got a personal note to Mike. But that went real well.
There's a bunch of people here this weekend too that would like
They
to.
come every weekend.
Yeah.
Pretty near every weekend or something.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you. Tracy? Reports of the mayor and board of trustees. First thing on my agenda is the New York Municipal Power Agency semi-annual meeting, which will be held in Syracuse at the Embassy Suites, October 27th. Is anybody wishing to attend? Cooper wants to go.
Yeah. I don't think I can go that weekend. I'm gonna be out
Well,
of town.
you need to know, my expenses are paid,
Okay.
seeing that I'm president of that organization.
I have to see. 27th about 2.
You go down on the 26th.
Yeah. Come back
Uh,
27th.
You know, no rush on the 26th, because the meeting starts at 9:30. To go down on that day to Syracuse for 9:30, you gotta get up real early.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, if anybody decides to go, let Carol know. October, okay, got some time. Second thing on my agenda is surplusing of some more material, and it's water plant material, it's all scrap. Plus, I'm adding 3 docks, aluminum docks that we usually have, and 2 electrical reclosers to that list. Surplus it, so I need a motion to surplus that.
I'll move that motion that we surplus the listed equipment from the water plant. and-
Moved by trustee Roberts, seconded by trustee Jefferson, any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor, vote by usual sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Couple of things that are not on the agenda. Excuse me, please. You saw the paper today, press release about Main Street across the Empire State, spend $25 in your town. Well, we, Conference of Mayors have asked us, so as Mayor George A. Rivers joins the 25 on 25 campaign on the 25th of this month. Statewide effort will support Main Street across the Empire State. And it says, we urge the residents to spend $25 in Ross's Point. So Cooper, your case 50. That's okay.
Be nice, George.
I gotta get even.
You'll never get it.
Anyway, no, I know I'll never make it, but anyway,
You're too far behind.
it's, this will be in the North Countryman this week, this press release. Second thing, today there was a meeting here, Military Trail Scenic Byway Corridor Management Plan. I had the meeting here at 9:30 till noon. Anybody's interested in getting on board with this, and what it is about tourism from Ross's Point to Messina, what they call a Route 11, Route M37. Well, I attended for a few minutes today, and what they're doing is like putting out brochures and everything for the area. So if there's anybody in the village that's interested, please, the next meeting, I believe, is in Malone. I'm not sure, I don't have it in front of me. But anyway, I have a website that they can go to, get all the information. Next thing on there is Clinton County Health Department is holding a public hearing of sorts, instructional on Main Street crossings in your village, the first one being out here Wednesday. Excuse me, I've got a heck of a cold, so. There's been 25 to 25 people signed up to be here. And what it is to point out, street crossings that are bad, dangerous, and see what you can work with the state and see what you can do to implement. So, that's Wednesday the 22nd, at 9:30 in the morning right here. They're going to have, coffee for, and probably sweet rolls, and then a lunch.
You ain't gonna miss that, are you?
I'm on the diet, so.
And that's it for me.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Trustee
members.
Jefferson.
Just one thing on my agenda tonight, I just want to talk about, every fall when the weather changes, the south winds in the lake, the turbidity of the lake raises because of the wind. And, of course, the lake is really low this year because we had such a nice warm, hot summer. And we're just asking people in the village, that we're not real low on the water tank. There's 25 feet or 871,000 gallons of water in the tank right now. It's taken us a little longer because there's so much material in the water, and it takes us, we have to backwash the filters. So we're just asking people, just if you can, don't run a lot of extra water. We're not in a crisis mode or anything, but we should be thinking about conserving water and electricity and teaching this to our kids because it's a way of life. So I just wanted to remind people that just, if you can, just cut back a little bit until the water settles in the lake, and we should be right back on track within the next week or so. And that's the only thing I have to report this weekend.
Thank you, Trustee Jefferson. Trustee Baker.
One thing I have tonight is I'd like to thank the electrical for getting that transformer up and running and everything else. And, the fine job the boys are doing on the street. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Baker. Trustee Roberts.
The only thing I have is I'd like to remind people about the 4th of July committee meeting on Tuesday, the 28th of September at 6 p.m. at the fire station. What we're trying to do is trying to drum up some interest in establishing a new committee to forego the 4th of July next year, whether we're going to do it or not. So. And the other thing is, the fire department is going to be conducting an open house at the fire station. That's to see your your tax dollars at work, as well as to do a membership drive. So there'll be an open house on October 3rd at the fire station. Everyone's encouraged to attend.
How about the breakfast?
Breakfast, I believe, is the 17th.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee Huckrow among the missing. Tracy?
I do, I have one last thing. The village would like to take the opportunity to congratulate Mayor Rivers. Last week at the MEUA awarded him the prestigious DBH Dalrymple Community Service Award in recognition of his unusual devotion to duty, loyal service, and his many contributions to the welfare of the community and state. And we'd like to congratulate him.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Congratulations. What a surprise.
You must have been speechless.
What a surprise. Oh, that's mine, eh? Up here.
Just test it, if you went for it.
Becky?
Nothing.
Brian?
I have nothing.
Huh? All the work you're doing?
Oh, we're keeping busy, yeah.
Yeah, I know. All righty. Open the meeting to the public this time. Nobody wishing to address the board, I need a motion for adjournment. Baker,
Second.
Jefferson, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 24.
I love these meetings. This is great. Oh, good. Good, guys.
Yes,
Thank you.
George, if I take in the $50, do you want me to get a surplus?